We don't talk about clients on this platform. So if you were tuning in, or you thought you were going to get some gossip, or if you thought you were going to get some, secrets being told, you're at the wrong place. We don't do any of that here. So that's on a whole nother level. What we do here is talk about the business from a perspective of those in it and still in it. For those who are BBC, which is the Billionaire Bodyguard Club. Right. If you've protected, accumulated more than $1 billion in wealth protected, those are the gentlemen that we're talking about. That's the industry we're talking about. We're talking about people who have been in this industry for years, decades.
And also touching on it, there's spectrums of it, right? So he's talking about the Billionaire Bodyguards Club, which of course he is a member of, and arguably Horseman, the Horseman camp is at the top of, really arguably. But then also, everyone that has that honorable, endeavor to protect, so it's like, it's inclusive as well, but he's going to be speaking from a standpoint that very, very few people have the experiences to speak from.
Absolutely. And to even get into it, you really got to go back, right? Like, my mentor, the guy who taught me what everything that I know, is still in the business and still doing very well in the business, still has me in the business, still has others in the business. So when you go back and you start to think about how I started, if I started 16 years ago, and he's still active and he taught me everything he knows, you're talking about somebody that's been in the game for almost 25, 30 years.
Right.
In protection, protecting people at the highest levels. So if I'm at over $1 billion worth of wealth protected, imagine where he is right now. Right. And still going. So everything I know, I learned from him. And therefore, everything that I'm teaching or everything that I'm giving is from his perspective. So we always got to shine light on that. Killer J. Absolutely. You understand? My boss, my mentor, the brother who brought me into Horseman. Right. So all due respect to him. When we're talking about the BBC and that table, it's important that you said that, being at that table. Now, that table is you can do the research on your own. Right. We're not here just saying, I'm BBC and I'm this and I'm that, and no, you can prove your net worth. You can prove how much net worth you've been responsible for. I mean, especially with guys like Killer J and myself, you can actually go online and chart the artists that we've been with. Facts. You can chart the times we've been with them, and whether or not they were at the heights of their careers, where they were in their careers, and you can find the net worths of these artists and do the numbers yourself. Right. We're not giving you numbers that you can't verify on your own. You can go off and verify these numbers on your own. So everything that we say on this program, everything we say, on this platform, it's verifiable. Absolutely. There will be no rumors or hearsay spoke on this program, not for me. Right. So it's important that those of you who are out there talking about getting into the business or wanting to get into the business, that you think about where you could end up and where you could be, rather than focusing on the negative aspects of the business. And we'll talk about that too. Absolutely. I think, earlier I spoke about, people telling people secrets and people gossiping in this industry. It's important that people understand that there's a code and a brotherhood to Horsemen and to the Brotherhood of Protection. There's a code, there's an honor that we live by. I refuse to speak about a client's personal business. I refuse to speak about what I've seen, not because I have some intimate relationship with the client, right, or intimate relationship with somebody. I refuse to do that because it goes against my own moral code. Right. See, that's the difference. You have to have a moral code in this industry, and that's what's going to divide you between other people and Horseman. Horsemen have a honorable moral code when it comes to dealing with clients. Now, that doesn't mean we don't make mistakes and we don't do things that are considered wrong. No, what it means is we stick to our moral code.
Right.
Right. So we're not following somebody else's moral code. It is ours, and it's important to us. This is why I created the platform. This is why I'm doing this, because we've been getting a bad name and a bad rap. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people like Charlemagne the God or, other media pundits basically refer to black security as like inferior.
Absolutely. The whole goon
businessmen,
mentality.
Right. Goons,
right.
thugs,
right.
Knuckleheads, whatever you want to call it. And I've actually heard these guys refer to protection as white guys in suits. Mm-hmm. So anytime you say, well, you should get some real protection, you should get a white guy in a suit. Right. You basically just shitted on the decade plus of work I've done, the 2 decades of work that Killer J has done, by basically saying the only real protection you can get is a white man in a suit.
That's just the manifestation of the internal racism too. When you look at it like, okay, so now we know that this issue of white supremacy, it's a global phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Right. So then that's just an example of that leaking even into the protection industry. Oh, absolutely. No, the real bodyguards are white and have an earpiece and, come on.
And to us, it's funny because to us, they're scarecrows. We call them scarecrows, right? Because you'll see an artist or you'll see somebody bring in this white guy in a suit. He's got the earpiece and he's got a lapel pin. Right. So the idea is that for all these people from the hood to look at this white guy and be like, oh shit, he must be Secret Service. Right. He must be FBI. Right. He must have somebody who's really serious. Mm-hmm. In reality, they're like, nah, man, I know this guy isn't Secret Service. Once, because he's working for you. Right. Right. Yeah. Anybody that's Secret Service is not working for you. Right. So that's an obvious ploy. And the ultimate idea is that, okay, well, this guy is armed. Let me tell you something. When it comes down to New Orleans, when it comes down to New York, when it comes down to Miami, when it comes down to Atlanta, everybody has a gun. Right. You understand? Mm-hmm. So it's not a question of whether or not somebody has it or somebody doesn't. Assume everybody has a gun.
Absolutely.
So whether or not you've got a white man, and nothing against white folks, nothing against a lot of white men in the business. I know of a lot of very good white men in this business Absolutely. Who show respect to those who have been here for a while, those who have been here for a long time. I've trained a few of them. Jay Kane has trained, Killer J has trained more than a few of them. So there's a lot of guys out there that we love and respect, but for the most part, just because you have a white guy in a suit does not mean you're protected. Right. Nobody's afraid of him. Nobody is going to be afraid of him just because he's a white guy in a suit. That's not going to work in these places. Yes. When you start talking about things like All-Star Weekend LA, All-Star Weekend New York City, All-Star Weekend New Orleans, let me tell you something. I don't care who you with. If you don't have people with you that know what they're doing, you are food out here. Absolutely. You're a food out here and you will be victimized. Mm-hmm. There's not a question about it. Those of you who do know and those of you who are in the know that. Right. Athletes, entertainers, hip hop artists, you name it, have been victimized out here because they thought as long as I got this white guy in a suit that people are going to back up and not victimize me. They will victimize you with that guy.
Talk about, because this concept to me is absolutely genius, brilliant. This notion of verbal judo, right? Because, being a martial artist, coming up, I understand that martial arts is a preparedness for a type of danger, right? So you have a certain level of relaxation more so than anger. Anger is actually your enemy in any type of combat if you're approaching it from a martial arts standpoint. So as someone who protects people professionally, to take this notion of a martial arts like judo and then to translate it into the verbal realm as explained, please talk about that, because when you talk about it, it's just amazing. It's an amazing concept.
It's really the ability to talk people out of a mindset that they've already preordained their mindset. They've already had a set idea or perspective of you and what you're doing. And it's the ability to change that perspective. It's the ability to change the way they're thinking about you at the moment. That's what verbal judo is. It's the ability to change aggression into something else. Logic. Exactly. Yes. It's ability to disarm someone, disarm them from their want to affect you negatively. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. You can be in the club with somebody who's worth millions and millions of dollars, right? Your job is to protect that person that's worth millions and millions of dollars. This other guy on the other side of the club is whatever envy, jealousy, whatever the case may be. Drunkenness, whatever, women. Argument with his woman. Right. He wants to be seen and he wants to be acknowledged by that guy worth millions and millions of dollars. Right. That's all it is. Right. They just want acknowledgement. Right. So I'll give you this scenario. The scenario is, okay, you're in the club with a client that's worth millions and millions of dollars. Right. He's got all the girls. He's got all the bottles. He's got all the fanfare. Right. DJ shouting him out. Yeah. Everybody sees him. Everybody knows him. Right. Right. There's a group of gentlemen on the other side of the club. They have no acknowledgement. They have no tables. They have no girls. But you see them staring at you at the table, right? Or staring at your client, more importantly, at the table. Right. What do? I've been taught what you do is introduce yourself to those guys at that table, right? Let them know who you are and what you're there for, right? Right. 9 out of 10 times, those people at that table just want to be acknowledged by you. Right. Now you've turned a potential conflict into now they got your back. They feel like they're part of the team. Now understand something. We're getting the bottles for free. We're not buying the bottles. Right. The club are supplying the bottles. Right. So cool. Why not take a bottle? They don't have any liquor over there. Hey, listen, I'm such and such. I'm over here. I'm responsible for him. You know what I'm saying? Y'all make sure we good. Here's a bottle. Right. Not only did you just turn those group of men into allies, they gonna make sure you get out of there tonight. Right. They gonna make sure you come out of there untouched. Right. They gonna make sure that you look the best you can look in front of this guy. You understand? And that's what you want. That's the key to verbal judo. The key to verbal judo is changing a person's mindset about you in the moment. Right. In the moment. Right. And when you can do that, that's how you win. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then this delicate balance of the logic, yet the intimidation, right? Because you're still benching 500 pounds and they know they still, the physicality of you is still, they're still confronted with that. Right. So now when you mix that with if it came down to it, I could get down, but I'm going to talk to you and like you said, make that person your ally. Exactly. Because now it's like, ooh, I'm down with the, the big intimidating person in the, so I mean, that's like brilliant. And understanding the fact that gone are the days. There used to be a period, used to be a time period. When I first started in the business, I mean, we were fighting every night, whatever, stuff we're not gonna talk about. But we understand something. Don't get me wrong. we have to be very skilled at violence, right?
Force.
Have to be.
Yeah.
Somebody once told me, or I once read, that the only way to deter violent men is to hire more men better at violence. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not a question of what
the ability to become violent.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a question of what we're capable of. It's just a question of using those circumstances and what circumstances are worthy
absolutely
of that type of violence.
Absolutely.
Right. So every horseman active is capable of extreme violence. It is a necessary requirement to do what we do. But every horseman is so unwilling to go to that level unless they absolutely have to.
Right.
So they would utilize so many so high of a level of intelligence to get themselves out of having to go there than they would be going there.
Right.
Right. The prisons are full of bodyguards. That's kind of a thing we always say.
Right.
The prisons are full of bodyguards on so many levels. Whether you in the streets, whether you domestic, whatever the situation may be, the prisons are full of people who lost their wits and became violent in situations where they could have thought their way out of it.
Right.
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 If you ever see a horseman in prison, that means he put himself there. You understand what I'm saying?
That's true.
If I'm going to go to prison, if I'm going to be stripped of my freedom, it's going to be on my sword, right? It's going to be on my shield, right? Every Viking had Valhalla, right? Spartans had honorable death, beautiful death, right? The samurai would kill themselves, absolutely, rather than lose a client. So we have that same mentality. But if we're going to go there, if it's going to be something like that, it's going to be worth it. Right. It's not going to be over a bottle of liquor. It's not going to be over, right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, altercation in a club.
Right. It's not going to be over a piece of ass. Right. It's going to be, something worthy of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, yes. And I think it's important
to say.
It's important to say. Because you got a lot of guys who are out here in this industry who don't think like that. Right. Right. So you have a lot of young men, and I'll call them young men, who have not taken the oaths, who are not properly trained. Right. And who don't live by that kind of code, who are out here calling themselves protectors. Right. And being responsible for people worth a lot of money. Right. So you're talking about being in situations where, the person you're with can feed entire communities. Right. That's an important distinction, because we're in the days and times where the gap between the wealthy, the gap between the impoverished is very wide. You're either a rich man or a poor man. Right. And people get poor enough, they'll get desperate. Right. And whether or not, people want to acknowledge it or not, your ability to maintain your wealth is going to be your ability to hire the right people very soon. Very soon, the rich will not be rich unless they can afford proper protection. And when you get to that level, you want to be trained and you want to be good, because if not, you'll be food. And these people will eat you. And they'll take from you and from your client whatever they want.